Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Uh-huh. So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
If you're a fan of comic books and comic book conventions, Daytona Beach Comic Con needs to be on your list of must-attend events. It's a show that actually focuses on comic books. Imagine that! This year's event is happening on Saturday, September the 6th, and Sunday, September the 7th. Silverline creators will be there, so we'll see you at the show. There's a new convention in town, and it's sure to be mega fun without the mega expense. Comics, toys, collectibles, pop culture. ShadowCon, Saturday, February 1st, 2025, in Orlando, Florida. Silverline creators will be there, so we'll see you at the show. If you find yourself in the Orlando area, and let's be honest, doesn't everyone come to Orlando for the House of Mouse? Head over to Coliseum of Comics to get your comic book fix. Be sure to check out their location on East Colonial Drive, where they carry a wide selection of independent comics, including Silverline books. Stop by and don't forget to tell them Silverline sent you. Hey, if you're an independent comic creator looking to get your comic printed, look no further than Kablam Digital Printing. They print our comics and do a fantastic job. They can even print special edition covers. When you reach out to them, be sure to tell them Silverline sent you.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
Hi, I'm Barb Kelber, co-host of Silverline's Wednesday Wham. Join us each Wednesday night as we discuss comics, literature, movies, and anything else that may catch our attention.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Silverline Silver Sunday. This Sunday, February already, February the 2nd, 2025. I am your host. I am Roland Man, and I am joined by Dave Olbrich's friend, Mr. Tom Mason.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you.
How you doing tonight, Tom?
Doing great.
Good. I'm expecting you to bring the hardball questions tonight. I'm depending on you.
Dave and I already talked about what I'm not allowed to say. So.
No fair.
Tom knows where all the bodies are buried, so it can get ugly fast.
I'm keeping the bodies buried till I write my book.
This is like a political interview. You already got the questions and stuff.
No cheating.
What's your policy on taxes, Dave?
We are also joined by a dude just making comics, Mr. Thomas Florimani. Say hi, Tommy.
Howdy do, howdy do.
And, of course, our special guest tonight, Malibu Dave Olbrich, who I have a long list of things, which I can't read. Would be here half the hour if I'm reading all of Dave's credits. But
yeah, no kidding.
He has done work for some of the things you guys might recognize. Places like Amazing Heroes, Fantagraphic Books, the Jack Kirby Comics Industry Awards. But what you guys really want to know is about the Malibu stuff, right? Dave is one of the 4 founders at Malibu Comics, so he was there for all the Aircell Adventure, Eternity, Ultraverse, Bravura, all of that. So all of you out there in Chatland, bring your questions because we got him right here, and he can't go. He can't go. He is here. So Malibu Dave, say hi to everybody.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, I was at Malibu before it had a name, so there you go. I was the one that named it.
Really? All right.
Yep.
That's the first story, Dave. Tell us that story.
Title? Did it have a working title, or was it just Dave's idea?
I don't remember. That was a long, long time ago. But the story goes like this.
I just figured y'all were at a bar or something in Malibu, and you go, "What should we call this thing?" And you go, "Malibu." Hey.
Actually,
we were going to call it the bar.
It's even less interesting than that, Thomas.
Oh,
Yeah.
So I was trying to get a job in comics after working at Domino's Pizza for a year or so, and I was very, very young. And I got a job. I got a job at Sunrise Distribution in the bowels of Los Angeles, run by Scott Rosenberg. And I'd been there, I don't know, 6 months or so. And we're sitting around after distribution day, after loading all the boxes of comics into retailers' trunks of their cars and all that. We're sitting around having pizza afterwards, and he goes, Dave, where do you want to be in 5 years? And I said, well, working at a distributor, I see what these other publishers are doing. I'd like to get back into publishing because I think I could do it at least as well or better than they are. And he said, oh, that's interesting. And then we went on with it. And about a week later, he calls me into the office. He says, okay, if you'll run it, I'll pay for it.
Wow.
And I said, okay, well, what are we going to call it? He goes, I don't care what you call it. Come up with a name, and we'll get it. We'll process the paperwork. And so
kids,
I had. Go ahead, Tom.
So, kids, if you're wondering how you break into comics, follow the Dave Olbrich path.
Yeah, it's easy.
Know somebody with money is what you're saying, right?
You gotta meet a guy. You gotta meet a guy, and when he says, "What's your 5-year plan?" you just lay it out. Say, "Look, I want to be publishing comics."
Well, I'm surprised. So knowing Dave did, I'm surprised it's not called Those Funny Books.
Yeah, I do refer to them because. Well, as Mr. Mason's well aware, I try not to give undue respect to anything. So I come up with funny names occasionally just to remind me not to take life too seriously. So also, I refer to them as funny books on a pretty regular basis. Yeah.
The thing about funny books as a name, which would be a great name, but the logo would be difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because it'd either be a straight line of Funny Books Comics or whatever, Funny Book Comics or something like that, or you'd have to stack it into a square where it would just be Funny Books, which doesn't look right.
No.
So you couldn't win.
So I was driving back and forth from a place called Newbury Park, California, where my wife and I lived, to where Sunrise was, which was about an hour drive, even in the best of weather and in the best of traffic. And as I was spending a lot of time commuting and thinking about what I wanted to call the company, and I drove by the exit for Malibu Canyon, which strangely enough, Roland, you should be aware of, because that's by where the exit was for the final Malibu offices, right?
I remember the exit well.
So I drove by the Malibu Canyon exit, and I went, Malibu Comics, and the more I started thinking about it, the more I was like, okay, that's the right name for a lot of different reasons. And Tom's heard my reasoning about. There's about 7 different reasons I came up with for why I liked Malibu as a name.
Yeah, it worked. So we've heard some of the stories about the adventure and Aircel, but so what did you do immediately following that then? What was the first thing you did? Scott says, "Oh, if you're going to do it, I'll pay for it." You come up with Malibu Comics.
I think before I even had a name for it, I was on the phone to Tom. Like Rosenberg said to me, "Hey, you do it, I'll pay for it." I don't think an hour passed, and I was on the phone to Tom saying, "Hey, you want to come publish comics with me?"
And I think I said yes before you even finished the sentence.
But now you were still back east, right?
Hey, Tom, do you want it? Yes, that's what.
Yeah.
Well, Tom might have an interesting perspective on my origins of when we met, because we were talking about this with Chris Olm the other day, and I was like, "Oh yeah, Tom really wasn't that anxious to be friends with me at the beginning either."
No, I didn't care. Because I worked, I don't want to make this about me, but I worked for Fantagraphic Books at the time.
Right.
I was an art director at Amazing Heroes, and I didn't treat it like, I broke into comic books. I treated it like I worked at the grocery store.
Right. So
I showed up at 9:00 or whatever, and I left at 5:00, and I didn't work weekends, and I didn't put extra time in, and it was my job. It was the thing I did. And
you showed up with a bag lunch.
Yeah. So I was
That's true. That's true story.
And so I didn't treat it like, oh, I broke into comics. So I didn't really have, like, Dave was a comic book guy.
Right.
And I didn't want comic book friends. So it took us sort of a long time of circling each other like rabid dogs to try to figure out if we had anything in common where we could go. And I think what we had in common was pinball and pool.
And movies and TV and,
movies.
all the other stuff that comic guys kind of gravitate toward, right?
Yeah. Well, so Dave, what about your now? Let's go back. Let's pause that for a minute. Let's go back just a little bit. What are the first comics you remember reading? As a kid, right?
Yeah, the first comic I saw was one of the early X-Men that my dad hired a high school kid to be the hired hand on his farm. And I remember him playing keep away with me from a copy of X-Men that he had. But I think the thing that got me enamored with comics was the fact that I lived on a farm. At the end of the day, I had 8 sisters, no brothers, right? Lived 5 miles, 6 miles from town. So there I am, isolated on this little dairy farm. But I did have television. Yeah. And I had the Wild Wild West, and I had the Girl from U.N.C.L.E., and I had all this stuff my dad hated. And if I went to my friend's house in town, he got a channel that had the Marvel Superheroes TV show. And so when Captain America throws his mighty shield and Hulk and all that stuff, I went berserk with that stuff. I absolutely loved it. And then I saw it on a newsstand in a bus station when I was going from one place to another, and they're like, well, how do we keep Dave occupied while he's on a bus for 6 hours? So it's like, oh, we'll buy him some comics.
Nice.
So it was the first comic I ever remember reading was a Daredevil story versus the Animen in Daredevil Annual. I think it's number 2.
Wow.
With art by Wally Wood. So yeah. I started off in a pretty good spot, but then I started just searching out every comic book I could find after that.
This sounds like an old black and white movie. There I was at the bus station. Tumbleweeds were rolling across the street.
It really does. It does smack of a Steinbeck novel, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? We're leaving town so my dad could get a job in the Dust Bowl.
We've got a late joiner with us. That man in the mask guy, Mr. Mike W. Bell.
Hey guys, sorry about that.
That's all right.
That's okay.
I'm here.
You gotta play catch up.
I just assumed you were adjusting your mask.
There you go. Yeah,
that's right.
I had to be prepared.
So Dave, what books were it? What comics made you think this is what I want to do? I want to get in. I want to make these things. I want to get into this biz at some point in time. What comic or comics was it that made you want that?
So when I was getting ready to leave comics, because cars and girls and sports and all that stuff kind of came along, I couldn't leave Master of Kung Fu by Doug Mensch and Paul Gulacy, and then eventually the guys that followed him up. And I couldn't leave Marv Wolfman's Tomb of Dracula.
Yeah.
So they really weren't hardcore superhero books that absolutely kept me tethered. But I kept reading that stuff too. So
if you're going to read one, you might as well read 10.
I don't think this is going to surprise anybody. In high school and college, I didn't have any game. All I had was my TV and my comic books. So I kept reading it all, or I would read every comic I could get my hands on.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you a funny story though that happens to I think a lot of us. We had this little store, little storefront that was right around the corner from Metal Shop. So I could skip school early at lunch hour, go pick up my comics, get some candy, go hide in the corner during lunch hour and read my comics, right? So there's this dingy little newsstand rack right inside the door of this horrible little convenience store. And I picked up an issue of, I was a big fan at that point of Ghost Rider and Man Thing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I picked up an issue of, I don't know how it ended up on my newsstand, but Will Eisner book, I think Kitchen published it way back. And I opened it up and I said, "Oh, how dare this guy! I cannot believe he's ripping off Mike Plug." For about a year, I was outraged that Will Eisner was stealing from my favorite Mike Plug.
That's funny. That's funny.
I didn't know nothing. I didn't get fan magazines. The minute I got Stranko's History of Comics, that killed me, because I was like, now I'm in so deep I can't get out.
Yeah. And what roughly what, I don't know. I know of Stranko's History of Comics, but I haven't read it. So roughly what year was that?
Ooh, Tommy, you got any idea? It had
Stranko's
to
History
been
of Comics
70.
came out around 73, 74.
72,
Oh,
okay.
it was that long ago. Okay. I was thinking 75, 76, but yeah, okay. And there was
Explains
two
why I didn't
volumes
read it.
2 volumes, and they were oversized like a Treasury edition.
Okay,
They
cool.
And they weren't very thick.
No, but they were the biggest books I'd ever seen.
Yep.
Yeah.
For
Well,
sure.
I remember the Spider-Man vs. Superman Treasury edition. Biggest thing I'd ever seen. And then I realized, oh, look, there's some more. I can get these, and they're huge.
Yeah.
A couple comments here. Madness Entertainment Group says, "Hey, yo, what's up, Pops?" Then he says, if you want to bring your show to Book a Spot or become a sponsor of the Madness Entertainment Group, LLC, please contact us at Madness Comic on X, Pops Van Zandt on Facebook, Pops at the Meg.tv. Thanks, Pops. David A. Gutierrez says, the legend.
I feel that way about him. So there you go.
So, Dave, ever since I've known you, you've been an indie guy, right? So, what is your first recollection memory of independent comic books?
God, I didn't discover anything about indie comics at all. I didn't even read DC comics, really. I mean, I'd read an odd. I'd read an odd issue of Batman or Ragman or if there was a really captivating cover or something, but mostly not. And I didn't like Superman at all.
Yeah,
because it just felt like he was overpowered. It just felt like there was no way that he could fight, that Superman could fight as an underdog. And whenever he did, the stories were just ridiculous. I mean,
but nobody solved the locked room murder mystery like Superman did.
But now I love the 40s Fleischer cartoons. Those are fantastic.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with that, Roland, for sure. But I didn't have access to that either.
Yeah,
but the comics of that time never reflected the Fleischer cartoons. Never.
No, they did not.
So the first indie stuff I ever saw is after I started, right around the time I started working. I ran a comic book shop in La Crosse, Wisconsin for less than a year, about a year-ish.
Okay.
Time frame. And so then I discovered some stuff, because that's when I ran that store, it was when Turtles came out.
Okay. All right. So that's when you were like, hey, look at all this stuff.
I didn't read Turtles.
Yeah, but you ordered it though, right? You ordered it.
I did. I ordered it. Yeah. I was happy to sell it. I was happy to take people's money, but I didn't read it. No.
Yeah. So Tommy and I talk about this. I remember when Turtles came out, our comic shop, when I walked in the door, my comic shop guy said, he pointed to, because he had it up on a rack on the wall, and he says, you got to get that. You got to get that. I remember picking up the first issue, flipping through it and going, really? Nah, I think I'll wait. I put it back and I walked off and didn't get it. Went and bought some Miller Daredevil.
I bought a copy and I have no idea where it's at.
That's a couple $100 right there.
Yeah, no kidding.
But
I mean, I can't be upset about it. I have no idea where it's at.
It was an embarrassment of riches, though, because I went to Fantagraphics, and one of the things they wanted me to do was market, and in addition to managing editor of Amazing Heroes, they also wanted me to work on helping to sell the books to the distributors and retailers and stuff. So I got to jump in on Love and Rockets at issues 2 and 3.
Oh, wow, early on.
And that definitely changed my opinion about all that stuff for sure in a big hurry.
Yeah,
because Jaime and Gilbert are just astonishing. Yeah.
I think it's funny how independent comics can, once you discover them, they really just kind of blow your mind, and you realize, hey, wait, they do more than Spider-Man and Batman.
I went back when I was at Amazing Heroes and read got my hands on a whole string of Cerebus, and I was like,
yeah,
holy cow, what's going on? Oh, yeah, and that's the same time the Peonies were doing Elf Quest, which wasn't my cup of tea, but you can see the appeal for sure, right?
Yeah,
and it was selling well, and the retailers loved it.
I confess I have the Marvel Elf Quest, of course, when they started doing it. But the reason I bought it, because I kept trying to, like many of us, I kept trying to get BJ to read comics because I'm reading a whole bunch of them, and I felt like a geek, right? Come on, you need to see how cool they are. So I'm always trying to find comics that she would like. She read Elf Quest, loved it. So of course I'm buying every issue I can, right, and feeding them to her.
Look, honey, the Elf Quest is here.
She ended up her three favorite books were Elf Quest, Gru, and the Teen Titans by Wolfman and Perez.
That's having pretty good taste. That's pretty discerning, I think.
I couldn't get her to read a whole lot of others. Like, sweetheart, you want to read this great issue of the Avengers?
Yeah, but you got three. You got three. That's pretty good.
Oh yeah.
I try to do that with my girlfriend, now wife. And the only thing she liked was the Khazar book that Bruce Jones did with Brett Anderson.
Basically, that was
basically
good.
It was Khazar and Shauna, playing house, right, in the
It was like moonlighting before moonlighting.
Yeah. It was all very urbane, and like they were running around in loincloths, but they were talking about all that stuff. And so my wife liked that, so I went. So this I hope you like this story.
Yeah. Went
to a convention and I saw, Brent Anderson is here, and I always struggle at conventions to get my wife something she's gonna like, right? So I go over and I tell Brent Anderson, you got room for commissions? He goes, yeah. So I said, can you get me a Khazar for my wife? And he goes, sure, absolutely. And he says, but you'll have to come back tomorrow because my list is long. Great, no problem. So I go back about halfway through the time that he gave, and I looked at the drawing, and he only wanted at that point $25 or something for it, maybe less. They weren't going for that much at those times.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah. I looked at it and I was broke, and I looked at the art and I went, oh, I don't like that at all. And I never went back and I never paid for it.
Oh
no! you
idiot. So flash forward 20 years. I'm in a convention at a convention, get into an elevator, and Brent walks in and gets in. It's just me and him in the elevator. So I reach into my wallet and I grab $40. I say, look, you're not going to remember this, but when I was a kid,
no way.
I commissioned a piece of artwork and I didn't pay for it. So here's the $40 I owe you.
Oh no! Did he laugh?
Yeah. We had a good laugh about it. Yeah.
He took the money.
Yep. And he said after inflation, it's now $100. You don't
and you don't have the artwork.
Yeah. David A. Gutierrez says Green Acres meets the Savage Land.
Yeah, that's about right. It was a really terrific series and should be remembered better than it is.
Yeah.
No, I remember that one. That was like 82 or 3, something like that, wasn't it? 4?
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah.
It's one of the first times I looked at Khazar and thought, oh, okay, this is what you can do. This is what you can do with them. You don't have to do Tarzan. You could do something else.
That's right. Woody, what's up? Woody says underdog. Don't know what that means, but okay.
I'm a little curious myself. If he wants to explain that, I'd love to discuss it with him, but I don't know what that means.
We have a follow-up question for Woody.
It's a cartoon with a great theme song, but other than that, I don't know what's going on.
I'm not sure if he's calling you the underdog or saying, hey, that's a cartoon. Figure
Maybe
Frame
like
Studios says,
purebred or something.
What's up? What's up, Figure Frame Studios? Thank you guys for joining us and hanging tonight. If you've got questions for Dave, put them in the chat and we'll make him answer them.
What's funny is that somebody types in the word underdog, all of us immediately go to the cartoon character.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no need to fear.
There's no other usage for that word.
That's right. There's no other definition.
No.
Now, Dave.
We just can't think of anything else. Is what it is.
It's all about Wally Cox.
Yeah, hold on. Let me see here. I got something here.
Okay, we'll take your word for it.
Don't pick at it.
This is a young Dave Olbrich here.
There you go.
Look at these guys.
This is a young Dave, and of
Woo-wee.
course that's Stephen Butler, and that's me. Now, Stephen, if you notice, he's got a pen poised in his hand, and
Yes.
I wish I remember exactly what it was. But Stephen and I were signing a contract with Dave, and this is, I think, at Chicago Comic Con.
That sounds right.
Yeah, that we were signing this. This is a young Dave. This is probably 90 maybe.
More probably like 89, maybe, probably.
Is it for Cat and Mouse or is it for Silver Storm or what is it?
Well, it has to be. Well, see, I don't know what the contract is for, but I can see by my shirt.
You got a Cat and Mouse shirt on.
Yeah, that's a Cat and Mouse shirt, and that's the cover for about issue 6, 7, 8, something like that. So we're at least I'm thinking that this was, we signed a renewal, but for Cat and Mouse after it canceled, but it never happened. Not Malibu's fault. It was our fault, right? But so I'm thinking this is what this was, but I don't know.
Steven and I had the same birthday.
Really?
Oh, just
well, you just had a birthday then. Happy birthday!
A week or so ago.
Maybe that's what you're signing is birthday cards.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Now I got a question for you here. So, so I remember going into the office and hearing Duo. I would say, talk to Duo. Who's Duo? How did Duo come about? Right.
Okay, so Tom and I are working at Fantagraphics, and occasionally memos would circulate from upper management that we would have to initial. This is back when you used paper for everything. You couldn't just send out an email, right, or do an instant message on Slack or whatever. You couldn't do that stuff. So a piece of paper would show up on your desk, and you'd have to read the memo, acknowledge you read it, and initial something, right? And so we had a very attractive, very fun woman that worked with us named Linda Garrell. And Linda initialed stuff. And one day, somebody we were working with went, "Who the hell is Inez?" And so from that day on, that poor Linda, we called her Inez religiously.
Because her initials look like I-N.
Right?
I-N-Z.
Linda and LNG. Her G looked a little bit like a Z, and her capital or a little lowercase L looked like an I, so it looked like Inez. Well, my initials are DWO, so that's how Duo came, and then so both Inez and Duo ended up growing our nicknames out of the same thing, which is just putting our initials on stuff.
So it followed you to Malibu.
Oh I was Duo to Tom long before Malibu.
Once we left Fantagraphics, he was still Duo.
So yeah, I was Duo just about the time I hit the shores of California.
And I still and depending on where we are and what situation we are, I have to think to myself, wait, are these Duo people or are these Dave people? Do I have to refer to him by his real name or his nickname?
And my poor wife has been Mrs. Duo for just about as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
It's not like she actually gets to have a name at all. Is it?
No, it's Mrs. Duo.
Yeah. All right, look, guys, I've been hogging up the questions. Y'all got any? Mike, Tommy? I know Tom's got some.
Oh, fire away, Tom. I'm thinking of some.
Tommy, you got any questions?
I want to go back to the.
I got my end of the show question, but that was
okay. All right.
I certainly have a checkered past, so there's lots to dig into if you want.
I want to go back to the beginning.
All right.
Back to the. So Scott says if you run it, I'll put up the money.
Yep.
And you call me, and I say yes.
Yep.
And then what was the plan?
Yeah.
Like
how did you get from I'll pay for it?
Right. So how did and
what was actually paying for it and getting it off?
What was the plan and what was the strategy for the kind of things you wanted to do?
Right. Well, I had. Go ahead, Roland. Roland, you were going to say something.
part of the question, let me add asterisk this. How did you decide then what you would do, what Tom would do, what Olm would do once he was brought in, and what Scott did, right? How did you, because I've always told you guys, I always look at you guys as the four guys, right? You're the four founders. And I know there were more, right? But you guys were the four founders to me. You're the four bosses. How did you decide which of you were going to do what?
Well, I was death and he was famine. And then
No, I think I might have been gluttony actually, but okay. Fair enough.
That's the wrong ones, Dave.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, those are the seven dwarfs.
Right.
Sleepy, dopey.
Yeah. No.
All right. So Scott says, do it. And I say, okay. So he and I came up with kind of an exit plan for getting me out of Sunrise. And so we started having meetings about, okay, well, we're going to need a small office. We don't really have any money. And I said, well, I can work from home. And he said, all right, but it's a long distance and I don't want to have to drive all the way out to Newbury Park to visit my publishing company. And so I said, well, we'll do it far away for a year. And then after a year is over, we'll move it halfway between Newbury Park and wherever he lived in Beverly Hills. I think he lived in Beverly Hills at that point.
Yeah.
So that was the initial plan, was like, get it all set up out in Newbury Park and then
See if it works, and then once it does, move to the middle.
Yeah. So I'd have a little bit of a commute and he would have a little commute, because me driving all the way Commerce every day was just destroying my car. It was awful.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, one Halloween, Roland, it took me almost 5 hours to get home from work.
Oh my gosh.
Dang.
Well, that's because you stopped at all the houses to get candy.
I didn't tell my wife I was trick-or-treating on the way home. That's right.
You walked, is what you're trying to say. Is it wasn't a car. That's why it took so long.
So I was living in a double-wide trailer on land that was owned by the local park department.
Ooh.
Because
did they know?
Yeah, right, exactly. We lived in a double-wide trailer that was next to one of the local museums, and in exchange for us living there for free, we had to open the gate during open hours, close it for closing hours, and clean it once a week. In exchange for those activities, we got to live in this double-wide trailer for free.
Almost as sweet as the deal I had when I was out there.
Attached to the back of the double-wide was this space, a back porch, basically. And so I went out and bought lathing, and I bought some plastic, and I put the plastic in and enclosed this area as best I could, because it's Southern California. I mean, doesn't get that. I mean, the weather doesn't get that bad in most cases.
Just windy.
And so it had a roof and everything, but we had to cover up the windows, and we didn't. I couldn't afford screening, so it was just plastic. And so
you built the greenhouse.
So that's where Tom and I worked every day. And Tom didn't even come out every day. When he started out, he was coming out 4 days a week. And then we just kind of replicated a lot of the systems that we'd already developed at Fantagraphics.
Okay.
And I knew that I was going to be in charge of the contracts and creator relations and like the nuts and bolts of the business. And Tom was going to be responsible for gathering the material, getting it into books, making sure all those people were happy and the stuff was moving along properly. He was also in charge of acquisition. So if he found something he really liked, he'd go, Dave, do you like it enough to publish it? I'd go, yeah, because my standards were pretty low at that point. Will they do it for that amount of money? That was really the question in most cases.
Do we
and then we kind of went forward, but I wanted to do the easiest path at that point was to get creator-owned stuff, because I've always been about the creators, and my opinion was always my job was to do everything I could to sell as many copies as I could to make the creators as much money as I could.
Yeah.
If those things happened, we were going to be successful.
Yeah.
That was my point of view.
Yeah. So you were looking for finished or creators who did it all. You didn't want to have to find a writer.
Not necessarily, but it certainly made it easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Initially,
Tom was editing and trafficking books,
initially the way Dave pitched it to me was that the creators do everything. And because the books that we had lined up, Dark Wolf with R.A. Jones, and we had lined up a book called Libby Ellis from Dennis Cooper and Norm Dwyer, and those books came in finished. They were done. Like, they didn't need to be edited, and they didn't need to. I mean, you proofread them and you check them, and make sure there's no weird stuff going on. But they were done. And at that point, when you're making comics, it's like, whew, this is a breeze. These guys are coming in. It's finished stuff. We'll just put them out. Boom, boom, boom. 4 months in a row.
Make sure they're formatted right. Send them to the printer. And let it be done.
Did they draw it? Did they draw it to the right size? Is it proportional to the 6.5 by 9.25 comic book size, whatever it is?
Right.
And that was it. And that lasted about a month before we realized, well, we're out of guys now.
There's just not going to be that many guys like that, right?
Because there was no internet back then, so you couldn't find people.
Yeah,
you had to find people by accident, or they had to find you. So then Dave and I went hunting.
Yeah, and Tom hit a treasure trove with the Pittsburgh art.
The Art Institute of Pittsburgh.
Art Institute of Pittsburgh. That's where we discovered both Patrick Olaf and
Tim Hamilton.
Tim Hamilton.
Oh,
Tim Hamilton, who did Trouble with Girls, and Patrick Olaf.
Right.
Started with us doing something called Stealth Force, which we got. I think we got eight issues out of that before we had to cancel it. Yeah.
I think I remember Stealth Force.
But to this day, Patrick Olaf still does amazing work.
Oh yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
Tim Hamilton too.
What was the first couple of books you can remember doing?
Well, Dark Wolf was the very first book released.
I did not realize that.
Yeah. Dark Wolf was the very first one to come out. I think Libby Ellis was second. The second month, those were both month 1. And then month 2, I think it was Bones by Paul O'Connor and Brian Carson. And The Trouble with Girls was soon after that. Yep. And The Rovers was really soon after that. So those were the first batch. Am I missing something, Tommy, that seems obvious?
Yeah, because it was 3 in a month. I think it was Stealth Force and Dark Wolf, and there was one other one that I can't quite remember.
Besides Libby Ellis.
Oh, Libby Ellis. Yeah, so Libby Ellis, Stealth Force, and Dark Wolf all came out at the same time.
So that would have been June 1987.
And the strategy was to release them. Don't put them all on the same day. Don't put them all in the same week, whatever.
Right.
And don't put 2 on the same week. Just space them out 1, 2, 3. Because we're not Marvel. We're not DC. We're little tiny guys, and we have to take small bites.
Right. Yeah.
So you had to have enough number of titles for the retailers to bother to order you at all. Because if you're just one lone orphan title, it's really easy to go, heck with those guys.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you had 2 or 3 titles, they would start to take you seriously enough to go, oh, well, I guess I gotta stock some of this.
And we overthought this to a great degree.
we sure did. We thought it within an inch of its life.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question, Roland? I'm sorry. That
was Tom's question.
Yeah.
No. Did that answer the question?
I'm down here in the corner.
Oh.
I mean, it seems kind of obvious now, but I mean, it worked, right? Doing it that way.
Yeah.
And we weren't selling massive numbers of copies. If we sold 10,000 copies, we were doing backflips of excitement.
Hey,
most of the books settled in around 8, 7, 6,000, something like that.
I think there are a lot of publishers today. If they sold 8, 6, 7,000, they would be very happy.
True enough.
What was the first big hit?
Oh, good question.
Well, I don't know if there were any big hits. I think we did quite well initially with Trouble with Girls. I think Jerry Jones and Will Jacobs and Tim Hamilton, because it was so like the high concept was really appealing and the art was really appealing. I think that did quite well. Dark Wolf did just fine, if memory serves. I thought Libby Ellis was a better book than the sales indicated, but what are you going to do? You give it your best shot and you move on.
Yeah. One of the things I think we learned, and I think Dave can back me up, is we'd sit there and go, this is the one. This is the breakout title. And then it's like, oh no, this is the one that
Then you got to wait
This
5
is
months.
for sure. This is the one.
yeah,
Right, then
it's
you
like,
got to
oh,
wait
this,
5 months for the verdict to go. Damn
yeah,
it.
this is a
Son
kiss
of
of
a
death.
bitch.
And then I think the first big hit though was Robotech.
Robotech, yeah.
Because that was the one that where people who didn't care for us at all or didn't like our books or didn't bother ordering us or whatever were like, oh wait, Robotech.
They're like, hey, I know that stuff.
I know that
Yeah.
stuff.
That didn't come along until '88, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we were well into it by then.
David A. Scooter says, wasn't Scimitar the biggest hit? Or maybe
It was not.
X-Mutants?
It was not. What a weird callback. No, Scimitar was a very niche title for sure. And X Mutants didn't really originate with us. What we got, we inherited, and then what we inherited, we had to kind of reconfigure or try to make the best of. Some of the stuff came in, and the business relationships had broken down, and we had material we had to release because we'd invested in it, and we had to get creators paid. So there's a lot of that. There was a lot of that fits and starts and stuff that went on. But Scimitar was a weird title because it came along after we started doing more erotic comics, and Scimitar kind of walked the line, right? But boy, R.A. Jones and Rob Davis, considering what they set out to do, I thought they did an amazing job.
Yeah, we think so too.
And what they did was what they were setting out to do was really difficult, and I thought they did a pretty good job of executing it.
Yeah.
It's the funny thing about the direct market is at that time was that what increased the sales of Scimitar was doing two cover versions of the same comic and then putting one of them in a bag. So it wasn't necessarily the content of the interior that sold it.
Yeah.
The idea of what might be in the content.
Yeah, it was the magic idea of, oh, this is already in a bag. I don't know what's inside.
Ooh.
So all
crazy.
right. So you say bag though, Tom, and I'm picturing a brown wrapper.
Oh, the direct market. Direct market's always been kind of a weird place.
Yeah.
Just saying.
It was a sealed clear bag.
Oh, okay. Kind of like what we did
it-
with the that month we had the Pogs.
Yeah, that was
Okay,
exactly
right.
that.
But we had to do it because of the racy nature of the content.
Gotcha. Right.
So
right, yeah.
we wanted them to be able to see the cover and make it appealing to them to buy it, but we had to prevent them from being able to look through it.
Get it? So they wouldn't even know what it was.
While they were in the store. So
Right,
if they were
because-
going to see boobies, they had to buy it and go home and then look at the drawings of the boobies.
Because that was the
You
thing.
couldn't look at the boobies. No looking at boobies in the store. You had to take it home. You had to plunk down your money, take it home, open the bag, and look at Rob's drawings of boobies.
But it's a law of unintended consequences because the retailer won't carry it because it has nudity in it,
Right.
and they don't want kids coming into their store and seeing it, and they don't want the store doesn't want to get in trouble. So then we go, okay, well, we'll put it in a bag and we'll seal it so nobody can open it, and then sales go up because it's in the bag. So then they're
Right.
selling more copies of it. So it's like,
Well, this was around the time that all of the stores were being challenged with the obscenity things too, wasn't it?
Right.
What around that
And-
same time period?
Right,
Yeah.
and the fan press was all full of people arguing about whether you should label your comics or not.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I remember a whole lot of that in the Comics Buyer's Guide and stuff like that.
Yeah.
David Rios says, "Hi guys, what's up, David?"
I love running into David Rios. He's always so fun to hang out with.
Yes, he is. William Pace says, "Loved Ultraverse."
Me too.
This is a great question. Another one from David H. Gutierrez. He says, "What's the most painful lesson in publishing that Dwo learned?"
Jeez.
That's a tough one, huh?
Yeah, well, I think the most painful lesson that you ultimately always learn is the market has no beating heart, right?
Yeah.
It just doesn't. It's its own beast, and justice, despite what you read in the comics, justice will not necessarily prevail.
And it's not personal, right?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't. It's totally agnostic about that stuff. It doesn't care.
No. I know, and I got some questions for you about this. But I know a lot of people will ask me sometimes, were you mad when the Marvel came in and fired everybody? And I said, I said, number one, I lost my job, so I wasn't happy, right? I said,
Right.
I said, but I didn't take it personal because literally these guys had a list and they said, your employee number, X54321, line item, delete, right?
Right.
It wasn't like, you or Chris or Tom looked at me and said, Roland, we hate you. You're fired. Right. That would have been
You're at the
personal.
top.
I was a line item. That's all it was,
Right.
So it's kind of, it wasn't personal. It was just, it was a business decision and they just cut me.
Well, but at some level, you're always kind of getting paid based on the income of the company. Well, especially when the ecosystem is really small. When the ecosystem get really big, it kind of perverts everything, right? But if the ecosystem is relatively small, you're getting paid based on the income of the company.
Right.
So you can keep working if you want, but the money's probably going to go down if the size of the pie goes down. And that's just the facts of life.
David says, hopefully Tom and Dave will have a panel at WonderCon.
I can tell you that will not happen.
Won't happen.
Not this year.
Not this year. I have a secret exclusive for you, Roland, that I will reveal later.
Oh, fun! We love secret exclusives.
Mr. Mason knows, but it's been a badly kept secret amongst my close friends. But you will be the first time I say it publicly in any way.
Excellent. Well, hey, I'll remove. We'll move Tommy, and it says Tom already knows. Just tell me now. What is it?
No. Wow.
You were irate.
I wasn't listening anyway.
Stuff right there.
I was watching YouTube videos. I don't know what you guys
are. David said we were all line items. You're absolutely right, 100%.
Yep, that's true of me and Tom as well as everybody else, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Tom, do you have another question?
I think David had a secondary question that went there earlier.
Oh, yeah, this is a good one. Yeah, sorry. So David A. Scooter says, what would David O say was his favorite project? Well, that's a bunch of them.
Well, I had
your favorite, not your least favorite.
No, I get it. I had a very deep love-hate relationship, and Tom Mason can tell you I don't enjoy much. Like, I'm always about, like, if I get good news, I blow past it onto the bad news like as fast as I can. So I'm always looking for the next thing that's going to hit me in the face.
This will never last.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm a little ray of sunshine for sure. But I think the thing that I had the love-hate relationship with the most is probably Bravura, just because I got to work with Walter Simonson. I got to be friends with Howard Chaykin. I got to work with Dan Brereton. I got to work with Ernie Colon and Peter David and Stephen and Gil Kane. And like that, that's just, that's just a dream come true for a fanboy that grew up on their work or was a big fan of their work. Being able to publish the work of people that you were a fan of, being able to work with Steve Gerber on the Ultraverse was kind of the same thing.
Like, you can't really put a dollar amount on that, right?
No, you absolutely cannot.
Yeah,
right. So
I mean, you can put a dollar amount on your salary.
What was my favorite project? Yeah. Probably Bravura, but Tom Mason can also tell you it was a night. Well, you were there, Roland. It was a nightmare.
Oh yeah,
it was a nightmare.
I watched it happen.
Yeah, you did. And
it's funny what you call a nightmare.
Yeah, I know it.
You're just making comics.
Hey, none of you guys had to talk to Harris Miller, so shut up.
That is true.
But there's a distinction because Harris Miller's not a creative person. Harris Miller's a lawyer.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember volunteering to talk to him one time. And Chris looked at me and he went, "Yeah, I don't think so."
Now listen, I spent a week with.
I don't know if you did or you didn't, but I guarantee you regretted it.
No, I never did. I never talked to him.
I spent a week with him one afternoon.
That's right.
A week? One afternoon. Yeah.
It was a long meeting, right?
So
And it's funny
But
because
in all fairness to Harris, Bravura wouldn't have happened without him. So
yeah.
it was
Yeah.
it was the hurdle I had to go over to get where I wanted to go.
David A. Scudero says, "Can someone tell me what metaphysique was all about?" 30 years
Nope.
later, and I still don't get it.
Nope, nobody can. I guarantee it. Not a
No one
single
knows.
soul. Nope, absolutely not.
I am terrible because I read the first 10 pages of the first issue and I just said I'm out.
Yeah, yeah.
It looked good.
I know we're publishing it.
It looked great.
Yeah.
But
I can tell you, Norm was one of my favorite guys to work with, and it was terrific because he would be really good, super good Norm Brayfogle for like lunch, like the amount of time it took you to get through lunch. And then he would start veering into the weeds and like, oh wait, I got to go to another meeting. See you, Norm. It's nice talking to you. No, he was a lovely man, and even after he had his stroke, I would send him a card every week to like wish him well on his recovery and all that stuff. I grew very fond of Norm Brayfogle. I thought he was a wonderful guy, but he was whacked out.
yeah, he was on another level. Bravura, where we credit a lawyer.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And you know, unfortunately, we weren't wrong to do that because he, like I said, it wouldn't have existed if Harris hadn't done what he did.
Also, it don't cost nothing. So there's
right. Well, that's true. Right.
He's a line item at that point.
Yeah.
It's just a
it's either some ink or the lack of ink. That's all it cost us, right? And a little bit of real estate. So
we get toner in the printer. We should.
Right.
Well, Dave, what were some of your other highlights at Malibu? What are some of the things you look back on and say, you know, that was pretty cool. I'm glad I was involved with that, and this was a fun thing, right? What are some of your highlights?
Well, I loved. I really loved bringing Captain Harlock was the first thing where the industry finally went, oh yeah, look at those Malibu guys, look what they're doing.
Yeah.
Of course, it turned into a nightmare. You know that was an aborted issue, but that was the first comic that we sold over 25,000 copies of.
Wow. And
obviously being involved with the launch of Image was mind bending. And then
as someone who knows you personally, I've always thought it was pretty cool that when you look at that, when you watch all these histories of Image, and I've watched a whole bunch of them because I still think that whole thing that those guys did is incredibly fascinating. It goes back to the fact that you knew a very young Rob Liefeld who basically said, we're getting ready to do this thing. And you say, hey, dude, we can help you.
Well, right. But Tom and I are in the back porch of that double wide trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a package from Rob Liefeld that had a piece of artwork in it that was inked by Jerry Ordway. That was all the characters from Youngblood.
Really?
In 1987. We saw every single character drawn by Rob Liefeld for Youngblood in 1987.
How did he get Jerry Ordway to ink it?
They were all part of the Titans fan group, along with Hank Canals.
Yeah.
Now, I knew Hank was there, but Jerry Ordway was?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Whatever it was, I think it was the Titan Zappa, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, there was a fan club. I don't know exactly how the organization was put together, but so we offered Rob his first contract, but before he could sign it or accept it, and Rob goes a million miles an hour. So getting out in front of him and get him to actually commit to something unless he's in charge of how the commitment works isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
But we offered him his first deal, and by then he'd already gotten the deal for Hawk and Dove.
Yeah. Wow.
And we offered Jim Lee his first professional contract, probably in late '87. Tom, probably. And he got his deal before he could sign his contract with us.
Wow.
But Dave, to his credit, kept in touch with Rob.
Yeah.
And Rob, when Rob had slack time in his schedule, Rob would do a guest cover every now and then for us for something.
We could squeeze an extra almost 3,000 copies out of an issue of X Mutants if Rob did the cover.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so
it made a huge difference to have a Rob guest cover And
Yeah.
he wasn't anybody. Don't understand,
Then.
it wasn't about the name at that point, right?
Right. It was about
It was
the art.
about how appealing the artwork was.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
here's the
so
secret. Tom should tell you the secret origin of us working with Bruce Timm. Did you tell that story on the show yet, Tom?
No,
No,
nobody
you
asked.
should. That's a great story.
So Bruce Timm was working, trying to break into animation. He wasn't yet Bruce Timm. He was doing cartoons, and I knew him slightly from Fantagraphic because he used to submit little cartoons for the Comics Journal and Amazing Heroes letters pages, and we'd publish them and send them back to him. And when we started Malibu Comics, I remembered him, and I found out he wanted to do coloring work.
Uh-huh.
And so, but I knew, we couldn't pay a lot of money. We couldn't pay what the industry standard was at the time.
Right.
And he knew that, but he said, if you give me like 6 covers that aren't in a hurry, I can do 6 covers in a day when I have slack time in my schedule. So basically, he'll do his day job at Warner Brothers Monday through Friday or whatever, and then on Saturday or Sunday, when he's not being a family man, he'll drop in and do 6 covers for us.
We were Bruce Timm's side hustle.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we'd send him the 6 or whatever, and then he'd send them back when they were done. And then I made sure, Dave and I made sure that Bruce was one of the first checks that we cut, so that the money was always, because the coloring was fantastic.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we want to get more of this, so let's just send Bruce the check like way early.
Yeah.
Well, and that was, and Roland, you can attest to this. One of the pillars of Malibu from when the inception in late '86, right through the Ultraverse, and was that we had to pay everybody on time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Everybody got paid on time, because the ding against all small comic book publishers is they have big plans, but they don't have any financial discipline.
Right.
And so when their reach starts to exceed their grasp, they start paying late or not paying at all, or doing a bunch of shenanigans. And Tom and I were 100% against shenanigans.
Yeah.
So
we would cheat too. We would cheat too, because at the time, because Sunrise went out of business, Scott had a terrible reputation.
Yes.
Right.
And so
which I didn't know when I moved out there. Right. I had no idea.
One of the things to counter that is we should pay people on time. And then the cheat was that the thing was we'd pay 30 days after you submitted it.
Right.
And so for the cash flow. But then Dave would always try to pay them like 2 weeks early, because it's better to promise 30 days and pay in 14 days than it is to do the other way around.
Yeah.
And so people would get their checks earlier whenever we had the cash. So you either got money on time or you got it 2 weeks early.
And we grew a reputation for that, and that's how we got all those people to work with us, is because they don't pay a lot, but they pay us
on
when
time.
they pay us when
I
they
mean,
tell us
I can tell you that
and they pay
I don't know
on
if it
time.
was Roland pushing my invoices through, but I always got paid pretty quick.
Yeah.
And
on
then,
my Malibu.
I hate to disabuse you, Thomas, but that had nothing to do with Roland.
I probably not. Yeah,
But
no,
the
but it was
I
usually a
had
week, and
I
then
had
the
to
check
sign
was
them and turn them in, but that was it.
The other thing that we did was that when we got a reputation for having money in the bank, we'd get calls from creators like late January, early February saying, "Look, I just did my taxes, and I'm like $400 short. I owe the IRS.
Yeah.
Can I do? You got anything? You got a guest cover? You got a some kind of inventory thing that I can do?" And we would get covers from really good people because they needed an IRS check.
Well, one of your so before we met you guys, one of your biggest supporters was Lorene Haynes, and of course Lorene Haynes and Dave Dorman. Lorene was all about you guys. She's like, you need to meet these guys, and you need to get in with them. So
I don't think we should say what we did, but we did Dave Dorman a huge favor.
Yeah.
And really helped him out at a time when he needed some bridge money.
Yeah.
Not to build a bridge, but just to cover
some
stuff.
we always had a really good relationship with Dave, and that went right through the Ultraverse when he did that entire card set.
Oh man, that was gorgeous, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I remember the first Dave stuff I remember seeing was those Doll Man covers.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that wasn't him though.
That wasn't him. Who was that?
No, that was.
I thought that was him.
Nope, that was a guy in Argentina. I forget his name now. I have to look.
Well,
it up.
I also remember the seeing his work when I still worked at the bookstore. He did the covers for what was it? Tubular superheroes. What was it? That was it. You remember that? It was a superhero novel, kind of a science fiction.
That was a Mel Odom book, wasn't it?
Yes, but what was the name? It had a goofy name.
Yeah,
Android Tubular Heroes or something like that.
Something like that. And,
I don't remember.
I take off of the turtle stuff.
Yeah,
but the cover was great. I got a print of that somewhere in the house.
Oh, really? That's pretty cool.
If anybody gets a chance at a convention, go by Dave's booth. He's got a bunch of paintings. He made his money as a painting. He made his fame as a painting. But if he's got any of his panel to panel stuff or any of his pencil and line or pencil work and ink and line work,
right?
It'll blow your mind.
Yeah,
he is.
Yeah, no, he's
so
good.
Like I think he gravitated away from comics because it was too much work for too little money.
Yeah,
but boy, is his work good. If he whenever he tries to do that stuff, really eye opening.
Well, for a while he had that Star Wars gig where he was doing a lot of Star Wars licensing stuff, and that was
a sweet gig.
That's like car money at that point.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
David,
that's when I kind of learned who he was.
Was this when Tim was inking Masters of the Universe comics?
I had to be before that.
Yeah,
before that. Okay,
before that.
Yeah,
he wasn't the Bruce Timm then.
So Dave, what about here's this question. You may have to think about this one a minute. So you're thinking about Malibu.
Yep.
Looking back at it.
Yep.
Is there anything that you say, we did this, I wish we had done something different, or I wish we had done this differently? Is there
I wish we wouldn't have done this at all.
Or wish we, other than the sale, which was inevitable.
Oh,
well. Right. Is there anything in that time period?
We'd have done things differently as a company, do you mean?
What? Well, that
or do you mean me? Or do you mean me personally?
You with Malibu, or if you're like, hey, at Malibu we did this, and I wish we had done this differently.
Well, I think I would have. I would have tried to enjoy it more, but I mean that's not my personality. So
yeah,
that's almost like a direct lie.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I really wish I would have tried to enjoy it more. I wish I played softball better, so I could have been on the softball team. That always bugged me that I wasn't part of the Malibu softball team.
We did have fun.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you did.
Yeah.
Not that I was part of it, mind you. I was at home crying in my beer.
You were worse than the last pick.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
No, it's bad when you're the last pick and still nobody picks you, right?
That's right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That's it. Nobody left. I guess it's time to go play. What about me?
Well, the thing that the biggest mistake we made was was aligning ourselves with the video game company.
Yeah.
Because it ended up being mismanaged in a way that drained resources from the comic book side, which could have changed a lot of things.
Yeah.
So
and of course we know hindsight is 2020. So
right, we should have found a different way to do what got done at that point. But it was aligning ourselves with Acme Interactive that really is something it would be interesting to visit an alternate universe where that didn't happen.
That didn't happen. Yeah. No. That's perfect. Yeah.
Because then Dave would say, "I can't believe I've had the same job for 35 years." that's when you cut to the alternate universe.
I'd be vacationing Hawaii with Paul Levitz.
So this question is for those who are making clips. So Dave, why did why did Marvel buy Malibu for the coloring department? What was so special about?
Oh, you're hysterical. You're funny. Well, what's
That's
wrong
what we
with you?
read that all over the internet all the time. Tom keeps trying to convince us that's not the truth, but we know that it is.
Oh, I love that attitude so much.
Listen, Marvel had favorite colors, and we had those colors.
That's
Yeah.
right. We had chartreuse,
That's right.
and we had a very nice cerulean. So yeah, we had those colors.
Oh,
Marvel couldn't get them without us.
That's right.
So I mean, the biggest truth everybody needs to know is Malibu bought us, and within hours,
Marvel bought us.
Marvel bought us.
What
Marvel
did I
bought us.
say?
You said Malibu.
Oh, Marvel bought us, and literally within days, probably hours, they tried to kill the coloring department.
Yeah.
Because if you ask me, and this could get me sued, I guess, but if you ask me, the guy that was in charge of production at Marvel at that point was getting a financial kickback from a coloring house in Ireland, and so Malibu's having a coloring department that could get things done got in the way of his under the table payments.
Yeah, that's New York, right?
This is business.
It is.
Yeah, no,
that's
that guy was a gangster for sure.
Yeah. This is a good question here. I'm gonna add a little bit to it. David A. Scooter says, which creator did David wish he had dabbed for the Ultraverse, but for whatever reason could not? How about
Tom? Which story should I tell?
I would like you to tell the one with the initials are AD.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, okay. Go ahead, Roland.
I was just gonna say
we've settled
more
on
than
the story.
one. Yeah, more than one, because his is which creator. But I knowing you, I know you probably talked to a whole bunch of them. So what couple of creators do you wish you could have roped into?
Well, the one that makes the best story, is we've got this big soup. We came back from Scottsdale with this soup of creative ideas and IP and writers working on certain books and trying to figure it all out. Getting the launch figured out and how is it all going to work, blah, 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 blah. And we didn't have we decided that we really liked Prime for a lot of reasons.
Right.
But we didn't have an artist. And so it came to our attention that Alan Davis was no longer exclusive to Marvel. So we knew there was a convention coming up in London. They put my butt on a plane and I flew over to England to seduce Alan Davis into working for Malibu and being the artist on Prime.
What did you
Wow.
Which it's mind-boggling to think about, right? First of all, it's hard to imagine Prime without Norm. But it's also interesting as a comic book reader and a comic book fan to think about oh my God, what could Prime have been with Alan Davis drawing it, right?
It's also hard to imagine you in London.
Oh boy.
It is. It really is. Oh Christ, it's a big bin.
Look, that's just a giant clock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the
Ain't
big
nothing
deal?
special about that.
How come you guys wear those big hats?
And
so how did the courting of Alan Davis go?
I'm trying to remember because I think I only went to England that one time, and I believe I didn't even get a hotel because I stayed at the local apartment of Lou Bank, who used to be the sales director at Marvel,
right?
And had moved to the UK to become some executive trying to keep Marvel UK afloat.
Oh.
So I stayed at his place, went to the convention, had a lot of talks with Alan. At the end of the day, he said, no, I'm sorry. I cannot accept your offer because I'm retiring from comics because I want to run my son's Boy Scout troop.
Wow.
Because there's good money in that in England.
That's right.
Obviously.
Apparently, it's an interesting career choice. Of course, Alan Davis stayed retired, I think, approximately 8 months, maybe less.
Right.
Wow.
So I came home empty-handed, and then I was talking to Mike Friedrich because we were trying to round up creators. So I wanted to get access to everybody who had lots of top name creator phone numbers.
Right.
And he said Norm was looking for something, and we were like, okay. And then Mike comes back and says, all Norm really wants is a monthly book that he can ink himself, because that way he can kind of only half pencil it,
Right.
and he knows at his own speed he can pencil and ink a book almost as fast as he can pencil it.
Right. Yeah.
Great, beautiful.
Because he had a
And then it was just agreeing on the rate, and the rate was fine.
Right.
and,
locked it down for
agree
a
to
year.
publish Metaphysique.
What's that?
And agree to publish Metaphysique.
I don't think so. That wasn't
That
part of
wasn't
the
part of the
original
deal?
deal. That wasn't part of the original deal. No.
All right.
Oh, I actually thought it was.
I did too.
Nope.
All right. The thing about Norm is he had this great system where he would do these layouts really, really tight but small,
Yeah.
like on 8.5 by 11 paper, and then he had his brother sort of blow them up and retrace them onto paper that Norm would then ink.
That's pretty crazy.
Interesting.
And that's why Norm has this sort of frenetic energy to some of his line work, because he's doing it
Yeah,
in real time.
it's
He's
live.
not-
It basically he's doing it live, right?
Yeah, he's not
Yeah.
necessarily following tight pencils.
David A. Scudero says they don't serve pulled pork in London. Well,
I don't think that's true. I think they serve pulled pork everywhere there's a civilized society.
If there's a pig,
What's wrong with
There's
you?
pulled
I
pork.
reject the very notion of that.
so are there other creators that you can think of that you reached out to and they're like, nah?
It got away? Not really.
I can't remember if it was you that told me to ask John Byrne or if it was Tom. But I was rejected by John Byrne. I can't remember if I told it on here before.
if I told you, it was more like, sure, Roland, go ahead, call John Byrne, see what happens.
But it was probably about the time that we'd already succeeded getting George Perez, so we thought, what the hell, we'll get John Byrne, right?
Right. Yeah.
The really challenging part was early on when we had even just asking the original writing creators was difficult, because we couldn't put ourselves in a position where we could reveal too much,
right?
And we couldn't put ourselves in a position where there was even a 25% chance they would say no.
Right.
Yeah. So, because we couldn't let the cat out of the bag, because we were in a hot race to get Ultraverse launched, which was Megaverse at the time. We can go into that whenever you want. But we were in a hot race to launch the Megaverse before Comics Greatest Worlds came out.
Yes.
And I don't know, and Roland, you were already there, I think.
Yeah.
And what we discovered was our original plan would have launched, I think, in September or October.
September.
When the kids went back to school, we thought that was the best time to launch, because of sales patterns back then would kind of fall off in the summer. And then we found out that the Comics Greatest World was launching before then, so we had to back up our entire schedule. So anybody who knows anything about comics, backing up a launch like that 4 months or 5 months was just an unbelievable piece of work. That might be the one thing I'm the most proud of that Malibu pulled off.
Yeah.
Was moving the launch date back 4 or 5 months and kicking the crap out of Comics Greatest World. I have to say that felt really good.
And that's what we're looking for right there. Kicking the crap out of Comics Greatest World. No, you're right though.
Well, that was going to be kind of one of my questions. Why did the Ultraverse work? Because I think it did work. Why did it work? And then Dark Horse's superhero line just kind of went.
Well, my opinion, I think we put more thought into it, and we were better at the things that we needed to be better at. Dark Horse had great creator relationships. They had great relationship with the retailers, but at Malibu, what Tom and Chris and I, and to a lesser extent Scott was doing other things. What we were really good at was taking a book that was going to sell 4,000 copies and getting the word out in such a way that would sell 8,000 copies.
Yeah.
We were really, really good at taking marginally profitable projects and making them more profitable. Really, really, really good at that.
I have a different perspective.
Well, hang on,
What is it?
Smarty Pants.
Not your show.
So we went in and we created a holistic marketing strategy that involved getting the creators on board. Then we had this giant thing called the Ultraverse Conference, where we helped fly in press, major retailers, all the distributor reps, and we laid out what we were going to do. And we said, okay, we have about 30 more days, 45 more days before we have to launch this thing. If there's suggestions that you have that's going to help this be more successful, we want to hear them now.
Yeah.
So that we could make the adjustments. And don't ask me what the adjustments were, because I got no idea.
Right.
But we've got time to make an adjustment. You guys are selling this stuff. How can we best help you market and sell this stuff? We went out to the marketplace and we actually asked them, and we got them involved. And I think the relationship we already had, and that extra piece of building, and of course we spent, I don't know, $1 trillion or whatever on advertising, but those things all together created the launch excitement that that Malibu was able to achieve with the Ultraverse.
Yeah.
What's your opinion, Tom?
Yeah. What's your take, Tom?
So I think a couple of things. One is Comics Greatest Worlds is a dumb name.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't have any snap to it. And I'm not being critical of people who created it. I'm just saying that's not a good marketing name. That's
Hey, Tom.
Didn't grab me.
Tom Mason, what's my superpower?
naming stuff.
Naming stuff.
And so that's one. Number two is we sold the line of books as from a group. Like it's a universe, and it's also a universe of the creators. And so here are the 7 guys, and you can talk to them, you can meet them, you can hang out with them, you can do whatever. And then we had it wasn't like the Ultraverse isn't Chris Alms and Dave's and myself. It's not our idea for a superhero universe that we're pushing down on creators and saying, here's what you're going to do.
Like Mark Alessi did it.
And I think
right?
what we did is we got all these guys in a room, and we had those guys push their ideas forward, and the best ideas that we could come up with would rise to the top, and we'd sort of pick them off like Squid Game or whatever.
And we'd sand off the rough edges and
we had
collaborate, right?
And we had guys like Gerber and Engelhart who would sit in the back corner of the room and go, No, Marvel did that in 69.
Right.
I did that at DC in 72. Right? And so you would sort of weed out the duplicate stuff, the derivative stuff. And then I think and Comics Greatest Worlds always felt like it was top down. Like this is what Dark Horse wants to do as a superhero universe. And then they hired people to make that happen. And that's how Shooter does it. So I understand that approach, but I really like it when you get a bunch of people in a room arguing with each other about what superpowers work and what superpowers don't work, and you get a better idea. And so that's
Comics Greatest World was too complicated too. Not only did it have a bad name, but then it had all these cities, and each of the characters had generic names, and they all belonged to a little group in the cities, and which books got released when. You had to keep track of stuff that just didn't make any sense in the marketplace.
Yeah. It's like trying to explain magic to me. Magic of the Gathering.
Right? To me it felt more like the cross-gen books. It was really hard to figure out.
Yeah, it was too complicated.
And we set out there's a theory that Chris Alm has called the small step, which is basically if you're going to do something new, it can't be so new that it's so far away from the things people already like.
Right.
You have to, it has to be like a small step. And Ultraverse was designed to be like, well, if you like Marvel's universe and if you like DC's universe, this is just a small step into a different universe that you'll like. Whereas Comics Greatest Worlds is like, well, here's a thing that's so different, we can't really explain it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know what the numbers were there towards the end, but it wasn't like it just fell off. Marvel killed it. It didn't just die like some of the other people's superhero books, superhero universes that they started up. Yeah.
David Rios
I enjoyed working on my books.
Malibu was great with supporting local comic shops. One of the best things I remember working in the comic shops before working for Malibu.
That's because we had a guy.
Yeah, we had a guy.
We
We hired a guy. That's all he did all day.
All he did all day was talk to guys. We had 2 guys. We had Alan Payne, who would talk to shops on like like a product level or what problems do you need to solve, and then we had Elliot who would go around store to store.
Yeah.
And set up events and set up signings and support them with promotional stuff and hand out free books and do special things on a Saturday or whatever. So it's like a 1-2 punch of shops.
Yeah.
So
I bet that's missing today too from all publishers.
Well, because Alan was a former retailer.
Yeah.
So he spoke that language of retailers.
He spoke retail.
Yeah.
And he's still doing the same thing today.
Yeah. I mean, we always devalue that because it's funny, but you really can't. I mean, you really need a guy like that.
Yeah.
That's what Alan's doing today, well, I guess not today, but tomorrow. He'll be doing that for Nick Barucci at Dynamic Forces. So
yeah.
Argo Comics says, I like teams, so Ultraverse was my favorite with Hardcase as my favorite member. Thanks, Argo. Thanks for hanging out with us. Good to see you here. He also says then, I think the Ultraverse artists were better overall. Adam Hughes was great on Ghost, but Perez doing art and Kevin West on Prime and others just has me recalling better artists at the Ultraverse.
Yeah, we did a pretty good job. I mean, I think there's places where we could have done better. Here's another fantasy you can stick in your cap. The original artist on Hardcase was Aaron Lopresti.
Yeah.
How about them apples?
But then he found out. We were
doing. They saw the character design for Sludge, and he found out there was going to be a Sludge book. And he goes, "Oh no, I have to do the Muck Monster." Like, all right. So then we had to scurry around finding an artist. Yeah. I think that was what frustrated me the most about
Hardcase.
Hardcase was. Yeah. I think it was pretty well written. I think it could have gone different directions if Holden would have been collaborating with somebody with a little more experience.
Right.
And the fact that it had a rotating cast of artists in a way that I don't think served the book.
So let's.
But I think Firearm had the same problem.
Well, we could talk dirty about Hardcase too, because after Aaron Lopresti walked off Hardcase to go over to Sludge and left us without an artist, that allowed the guy who ran the video game part to stick his nose in the book and demand. Like he would come in every day and say, "I want an image artist. I want an image style artist. I want that image style art for Hardcase. I want it." And then we found a guy who did image style art, but he couldn't keep up the monthly schedule, and that put the book behind. And then we were behind from the get go.
Well, we knew the video game guy was kind of an idiot because he didn't understand how great Norm was on Prime.
Right.
And then I'm sorry, that burns your bridges with everybody who knows comics in the office. So.
Well, this is something I always like to say, and I think you guys will back me up in this. I frequently see on the internet people talking about, this is slow. This artist is doing this book, and I always see generally artists who I've never heard of, say, "Well, pay your artist, pay them more, pay them better." And my thoughts are, you know what? I had a really good budget. That didn't matter. Right?
Yeah.
To some artists, it just doesn't matter. They're not going to meet the deadlines. Now, that's not a blanket statement for all artists, but that's not the universal answer to getting the artist to do it is not just pay them more.
Right.
No.
Humanoids paid Travis Charest for almost 2 years to produce, I believe it was 12 pages of artwork.
Oh my gosh.
And he basically, for the report was that he was just sitting in his Paris apartment playing video games all day. Because unfortunately for a lot of artists, and no offense to any of the artists here, but for some artists, especially young artists, getting that big check doesn't indicate money I can put in the bank. It represents how many more days I can go before I have to work again.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. For younger folks, you're exactly right. Luckily, I never had that problem, but some of my younger buddies that were in the comics and stuff, they exactly had that problem.
In the Image days, we gave somebody a check for $1 million, and their next issue was late. So,
right? That's what I'm saying.
What's your problem?
It's not about the money. And I get tired of seeing that online all the time. It's like, well, just pay them. I'm like, no, that's not the answer to it. Some absolutely. And some guys are going to be on time no matter what. right?
Well,
Money or no money.
Right. And,
But-
and Roland, you'll support me in this, right? The artist should get the cut of the profits or the cut of the production that they were promised.
Yes.
And they should get it on time. And that's it. So if you sell more, you get more. I mean, it doesn't have to be rocket science, right?
Tommy and I were just talking about this yesterday.
If it doesn't ever come out. If you don't finish the work, you don't turn it in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, Tommy and I were just talking about this yesterday. You know, we run our crowdfunders, and part of the concept is the more money we make on the crowdfunders, the more the creators get.
Right.
And
that's the way it should work.
sometimes we're looking like, why hasn't this guy, shared this crowd? It's his crowdfunder.
Yeah.
Why is
he's
he
the one.
Why is
He
not
penciled
pimping
the
it?
thing and hadn't even told one person about it yet.
Why is he not pimping it? Doesn't he realize that if 1,000 people come in and he makes $100,000, most of that money's going to him.
Well, there's the other thing too, which is if you commit to a book, you know the page rate up front.
Yep.
And you know the schedule up front. So if you have 30 days and here's your page rate, in the middle of it, if you suddenly say, well, if you pay me more, I'll finish it sooner. It's like, well, you already got the paperwork. You already know what it's supposed to be.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not a surprise.
You'll get paid as soon as you do the book.
Right.
This is not like I get paid after it gets printed and shipped, and then we get paid. We're willing to pay you as soon as you turn the pages in. That's a no-brainer. I don't know why people have a problem.
We wouldn't pay Steve Gerber till he turned the work in, and we made him come to the office and sit and do the work.
Yes, we did. Yeah. Retro Maniac James says, I always love hearing about the Malibu Comics days. Still my all-time favorite comics publisher to this day.
That's nice to hear. That's really sweet.
Yeah, they were fun books to work on. That's for sure.
Argo Comics says Protectors was great even before the Ultraverse. Excellent revival of the Centaur characters. Yeah.
That was all just us and R.A. Jones
R.A.
working together to
Jones.
see if we couldn't figure out a way to generate sales. Like R.A.'s other books were falling apart. We wanted to do color. He pitched us. Tom, do you have a different version of the story than that? Not really.
Yes, but well, it depends because the memory gets blurry.
Sure.
And RA's not here, so I think RA would have the better version of it. But we knew the Protectors characters as the Centaur characters were in the public domain because somebody told us, and that somebody wasn't RA.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't remember that.
We had Ron Goulart, because I knew Ron Goulart, the comics historian and the novelist, and he wrote us one-page bios of all the Centaur characters as they existed in the Centaur universe of the 1940s. So he didn't embellish them, he didn't make up new things, he didn't do it. He gave us one-page bios. We paid him for that. And then it was the sort of thing of not top down where we sat around and said, well, what's going to make the great team? Then I think we gave that stuff to RA.
Yeah.
And
I guarantee you that's the case.
Because RA said we knew RA needed something to do. RA was a good guy to do a team book, and RA really wanted to do superheroes because he hadn't really done superheroes for us.
And he'd been with us since day one,
right?
Like that's our effort to be
and we said
loyal.
And we gave him all the characters and said, here they are. Some of the names of these characters are super stupid because they're 1940s names. Give us a pitch back. And what came back was Protectors. And then there's a little bit of tweaking that goes on to get the team to line up and to get the names correct or whatever. But all that came out of RA. But I don't think it originated with RA I don't think RA came to us with the Centaur characters and said, hey.
No, okay. That's a good piece of information I didn't have.
I think
the Phantom of the Fair
was
a terrible name.
Gravestone is a better name. That came from RA.
Gravestone.
That did not come from RA. That came from me, baby.
Right. Because you're good at naming.
Gravestone is yours?
Because my superpower is naming stuff. We weren't kidding around.
I think one of Scott Rosenberg's
another book I worked on, Gravestone.
Yeah.
There you go.
I think one of Scott Rosenberg's buddies had alerted us to the Centaur characters being public domain.
Yeah. All right.
So that's how I think it. So basically, there's 6 people who sort of came up with it, but it was really R.A. Jones who made it what it was.
But we had some really terrific artists on that book. Jerry Bingham doing all those early Neil Adams-ish, right? Character designs that we advertised everywhere. And then Clark Hawbaker coming in and doing exactly the same thing, except a little more atmospheric, a little cooler.
Yeah.
And then we found Patrick Rollo. My God.
Right.
What a great find he was. I mean,
Yeah.
his work was just astonishing. And
Oh,
so we had a lot of really good creators helping RA, and then there were some other writers that contributed as well on some of the miniseries and stuff. I think was that the first thing Dan wrote for us was Man of War?
Yeah, but Roland did one.
Yeah.
I did one.
You
No,
did the Arrow?
I did the Arrow.
Arrow.
I will tell you. I will tell you the first thing Dan wrote for you, but I'm not sure he would want me to.
Oh, it was one of the porn books.
Yeah,
yeah, it's one of the adult books. Okay.
And then we also had, and Martin Powell was the Gravestone guy.
Yeah, Martin Powell's a good guy. That
Yes.
guy's that guy's a solid guy. I like that guy.
Yeah. Well, Dave, I look at my clock, and as always, when we are having
Look
a
at that,
blast.
Holy moly, really?
yes.
We're 90 minutes in and I haven't revealed my big thing.
You have not.
No,
So
that's right.
So you need to get to revealing because we got to wrap this up.
Well, as of Tuesday or Wednesday of this week, I've accepted a job at the San Diego Comic-Con.
What?
Oh,
Cool.
Way
I'm going to
cool.
be a full-time employee of the San Diego Comic-Con starting on February 18th.
Are you going to check my
Wow.
badge?
I will be there. I'll be there marketing and publications. I'll be there marketing.
he's a
and
security guard, right?
I'll be their marketing and publications editor.
Wow.
So
I'm
I'll be working on stuff for WonderCon. I'll be working on stuff for the San Diego Con, and I'll be working on stuff for the Comic-Con Museum.
So I need to submit my small press
So
application.
don't
to you,
be
Yeah.
don't. You can leave it on the show. You can put the show on YouTube. I don't care about any of that stuff, but don't be posting about it, you guys.
Oh
on
no.
Facebook.
Yeah. All right. Very
Very
cool.
cool.
Well, congratulations, Dave.
Yeah. Well, it's been 25 years since I had a full-time comic book job.
Wow.
So
Man. So are you? So none of my business, but you're gonna have to.
no,
move.
ask anything you want.
Are you gonna have to move? Can you stay where you're
No,
at?
that was the initial negotiation. Was I sent an email to them? I said, "Look, I'd like to apply for this. Would you consider letting me work remotely?" And they took, I don't know, longer than I would have liked, and got back to me and said, "Yes, we'd consider you working remotely."
Nice.
So
That
I'll be
is
going.
very
I'll be
cool.
going down there periodically, not once a month, but you know.
So would that David A. Scudero says congrats. Now, so is this going to affect your actual?
Gutierrez needs to stay off the internet too. So just saying.
No, don't tell him that. He
just can't spread the word. That's all.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I got you.
You know we're live though, right?
Yeah, I know.
Just saying.
Whoops.
I don't know why I'm trying to control any of this, but
I don't know.
there you go.
so
You better hit that delete button.
Is this going to
I
affect?
filled out all the paperwork. I mean,
Well, is this going to affect your con experience? Are you still going to be able to go? It's going to change it, right? I mean, you're going to have to work during the show.
Yeah. My con experience is suddenly going to change in pretty drastic ways. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't have to hang around Dave all day.
I'll be putting in 12 and 14-hour days, and I won't have to tow around that barnacle Tom Mason all day.
Tom Mason's con schedule.
Tom will be following you around.
For any of you trying to meet up with Tom, his con schedule is just freed up.
I'll be looking for a new friend.
Yeah. Tom will be at the bar eating French fries and drinking lemonade.
Listen, I'm going to go back and hang with the Marvel guys at the bar. So you go ahead.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you, Mr. James.
Yeah,
that's
so
nice. Appreciate that.
Well, that is very cool news, Dave. Thanks for that. Well, thanks so much, Dave, for hanging with us. We love having these guys. You know, this is what we do every Sunday night. I
do it in every once in a while.
Oh well, thank you. We appreciate that. Feel free to drop a line anytime. We'll get you back on here. We'll talk about some more of this stuff.
I would love to join you whenever you'll have me.
Because many of the folks who tune into us, as you saw, here on the Malibu stories. So,
and as you're probably aware, I have opinions about lots of stuff.
Oh yeah. That's yeah. And I didn't even get to tell any of my good Dwo stories. I was afraid Tommy was going to ask his usual questions.
Ran out of time. We'll do it next time.
All right. Tuesday. That's that Silverline show on Tuesday. Wolf Hunter 2 pre-orders last day. The last day to pre-order Wolf Hunter 2. Let's talk about how the team marketed it over digital channels. That's Tuesday for that Silverline show on Tuesday. Wednesday, the Wednesday Whammers are going to talk about making comics. You can do it. The panel will talk about the ways for beginners to turn their ideas into reality and how to avoid some of the pitfalls along the way. The team will also share the description of a panel they'll bring to life on February 29th show. So that's Wednesday. Tune in to the Whammers. Next week, we're going to talk about superhero vehicles. The Silver Sundays crew discuss superhero vehicles, which are the cool ones and which ones aren't. Also, what kind of vehicles?
Spider-Mobile.
What I like Wonder Woman's invisible jet. I'm sorry.
Because you can still see her.
You can watch her change. What kind of vehicles should some of the Silverline heroes use? And until next time, Dave, we like to say,
make mine
Silverline. Good night, everybody. I gotta find the videos here.
On the tube and feel the vibe. Every show you crave right here live. Heroes and villains clash in the night. Madness Comic Network sets it right. Scroll through the list, find what you need. Epic battles and fast-paced speed. From capes to cosmic space delight. Tune in and watch your favorites ignite. On Facebook, share the thrill so grand. On X, the buzz across the land. Madness Comic Network all around. In every episode, joy is found. Uploads, they never end. Superheroes and their friends. Catch every twist and every turn. Madness Comic, you will yearn. Stay up to date with every twist. Madness Comic, don't miss a gist. From laughter to tears, every mood. Madness Comic sets the groove. Click that button and subscribe. Catch the wave and ride the tide. Join the fun, join the craze. Madness Comic brightens days. New uploads, they never end. Superheroes and their friends. Catch every twist and every turn. Madness Comic, you will yearn. Stay up to date with every twist. Madness Comic, don't miss a gist. From laughter to tears, every mood. Madness Comic sets the groove. Click that button and subscribe. Catch the wave and ride the tide. Join the fun, join the craze. Madness Comic brightens days.
Whoop. Oh, wait, stream in. Where's it at?
Hi, I'm Greg Horn. Make mine Silverline.